All right, let's
talk about LCS.
Yeah, let's stop bagging on Travis because it's just too easy, and let's go.
Wait a minute. Why have we
finals.
just wasted 20 minutes on Travis and Hotline League when not only did TSM lose Monte, they lost to a sub jungler. Wait, the sub jungler was Greg. Wait, he's renamed himself. Wait, and could only play one champion. They lost to best of 5. Wait, wasn't even a 5th game. Wait, I'm just going to keep saying wait for effects. That's fucking hilarious. You don't have to wait anymore. It happened. It's real. Put it on your fucking gravestone, skywriting, put it in a time capsule, 100 years, open it up, read those facts in a row. They'll still be as hilarious. Dude, this was like Christmas for me because think about it, right? I already had Fnatic get eliminated way early. Then Reckless just gets probably the greatest set of teammates ever assembled, shits the bed completely, doesn't even get to the finals. I'm thinking this day can't get much better. So then I look on my schedule. Tonight's going to be shit though, isn't it? It's not going to be a great game. Team Liquid against TSM. I mean, they're fucking, they haven't got a jungler. Woo-hoo. I didn't even know what I was in for, mate. That was amazing. I was like, I had a grin 8. I was like that cat out of fucking Alice in Wonderland.
Cheshire
Cat.
Yeah. But wait, as you said on Twitter, not only was Grig, the former TSM jungler, the sub jungler, but he was replacing Santorin, the former TSM jungler. And also Liquid had Tactical, the former TSM Academy AD carry that they chose not to use. So the level of depth here about kind of the TSM throwaways destroying TSM was pretty sweet.
Oh, what's fucked up as well, like I will say, it wasn't just only on the Team Liquid side that there was like deficiencies. Like TSM literally couldn't even bring their coach, I heard, and they had to get like their old washed up mid laner to fucking do it. And like I said, he did his best job, like kind of like Greg did, but God, what can he expect, mate? He's not a real coach. He's just a guy who used to farm under tower and then tell his jungler like just fucking going in. 0-6 at Worlds. I'll be home in 3 weeks, whatever. That's the end of the Rough Blokes segment.
Well, it just kept the narrative of Bjergsen being beaten by his own wards. Just differently this time.
Well, the joke is, after all these years...
Holy shit. Holy shit. What is going on?
I mean, my joke would just be Bjergsen saying, Greg, really? Still denying us finals? And then he just says, always. That was actually a Harry Potter reference, I believe, right? I've never even read Harry Potter, Monte. I just know what the kid's like, basically.
It's already a good one, Raz.
It's already
a good one.
I should have known when I was going. Holy shit. With TSM, like, here's the thing. Watching their game, and I even watched it back earlier today just to, because they have a lot of issues. Just so people knew, TSM versus Team Liquid, before hearing about the substitution, I thought it was going to be a 3-1 Team Liquid. Like, I absolutely thought like Team Liquid is a far better team. I thought that right now in North America, there are just 2 strong teams that can compete at a high level in Team Liquid and Cloud9. But when I heard the substitution, like, first of all, just so you know, I think Armeo is, like, he's actually improved quite a bit. I think he is a great jungler. Watching his academy games and then like his, the third-party tournaments in Northern Arena, like Team Liquid Academy were a top 2 team in there, and in part because of him. So like I thought, like I was pretty high on, but once again, the biggest issues with this team was like, sure, this is last week. The last week your practice going into the finals, you now are plopped with a jungler that is competition for the entire split has been academy and amateur players. Like, that's not going to set you up to succeed. And your players who are mid and top are now going to have to have basically core conversations with you. The last time they've had those talks were like in lock-in tournament that he played, right? That's not enough time. So I thought that was going to be a big issue. Roles and responsibilities of jungler are pretty massive for the first 10-15 minutes of the game. And TSM, their previous series, I thought they for sure would have resolved a few of the huge ass issues. Like, I thought drafting problems for sure they would look back on it, and those are easy conversations to have as long as you are on the same page on it. And they didn't. I think a lot of the same draft problems immediately came in game 1, where when they see a first pick Gnar, which they tried, Team Liquid for sure did their homework and was like, they're just gonna early prio Gnar, so we're gonna do it and challenge them. They picked Renekton, which will get bodied by the Gnar. First 2 picks, you're picking Renekton, so not only are you going to get destroyed by Gnar, you give the opportunity
into the best top player in the league as well, just into the absolute best top player.
So you go bad matchup into a comp that you can't do shit into because they have Victor, Xayah. There are so many ways to just kite back away from you. So it would be a miracle if the Renekton gets a proper fight. So that to me, I think was just ridiculous. So when
Shout
I
out
first,
Huni for making LS look really good with his analysis of Renekton, by the way. Like Huni, you did a great job there, mate.
I think
So,
I think too, even though TSM won that game, the fact that they were blue side first picking Renekton and giving over Hecarim Thresh was also just hilarious.
that game actually Team Liquid won. The one day TSM ended up winning.
No,
was,
TSM won that game 3.
No, I'm talking about game 1 though.
Yeah,
Game 1. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
No, I'm saying later in the series.
Yeah,
you're talking about the
yeah.
drafting issues. Like you're in game 3, and then you first pick Renekton, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thing is, there's so many angles in this series we can go into. Like, one of them has to be the Huni discussion. Because here's the thing, right? When I made my video about how, like, TSM had wasted their time signing Huni, and, like, why is this your fucking big money signing, etc. I mean, obviously, they'd go, well, we actually had another one that was even worse. Like, all right, we'll get to that later. No, when they do that signing, though, right? If you don't know this, Monty, I actually have a very different way of releasing content to other people. Because part of what I like to do is historical context, right? So, as a result, I don't release a Huni video when, like, Huni's in fucking LCS Academy, and it's like everyone's just banging on him. Because, like, what new thoughts am I bringing to the space by bringing that out? What's interesting? Everyone's just going to say he sucks, right? I prefer, if you think a player's overrated, you should actually say it when they're in theory having some success. Because what you're trying to say is, even when they have some success, there are flaws to what they do, and eventually those flaws will show out. So I actually did that video right at the time when Huni was like this, when they started that little streak, basically in the beginning of the split. But, like, this is the reason I did it, guys. Because first of all, would you TSM fans learn that the regular split is not the playoffs? I've seen Huni's whole career. Guess what? When he's in LCS, he always has Smurf games in the regular season, but even then it's like 1 out of 3 is a Smurf game. And in the playoffs, have none of you seen the LCS playoffs or something? Have I missed it where Huni's having all these series in LCS playoffs for the last 6 years, where he's carrying? As far as I can see, he always just fucking shits the bed in all the big games. There's a reason the guy's never been in a final in LCS, because even though he is a very good player, this is why I joke and say he's like this is a fucking broken reference now. He's like the Western Marin, as it were. Like, he just has, like, it's just feast or famine every time this guy plays the game. And you saw it in this series here. Like, what the fuck was he doing against Alphari? Nothing. Just getting fed. I mean, he was feeding him, rather.
Yeah, I think he's like a top 3, top 4 top laner. I think the biggest issue for me is just like...
Yeah, but if you want to win the league, that's a position you need to be really good, right?
Yeah, I think the big issue... Yeah, I think that's probably the case. I also think that, like, the mentality of, like, knowing what matchup you'd want in a situation, like, it's not going to be... Like, if they're picking first pick Gnar or first pick Renekton and all these things that, like, he's going to be put in a bad situation on, that's him wanting that. Like, it's not going to be the coach saying, we want you to pick this shit. Like, they're the ones that I have a lot of faith in their coaching staff of Bjergsen and Curry. I don't think that at all is what they would want.
I'm sure they trust Tony if he says he wants the matchup. Yeah, of course.
So Rez,
that's speculation.
Hold on.
Let's be real. You don't sign Huni and then tell him, I'm going to pick your champion every game. Like, Tony.
We have to go back. Like, I agree with you that he must have been complicit in these drafts and agreeing to do this, which put himself in a bad situation. As a coach, you just have to not let him do that. But at the same time, Raz, he didn't get a kill in this entire series. In 4 games, he did not get a single kill. So at a certain point in time, if you're telling me he's a top 3 top laner in the league, then either what you're saying is that much like the Team Liquid / C9 gap between them and the next best team, right? That there must be some insane top lane fall off after, like, Alphari and potentially Fudge.
Yeah, and also I'm just changing. Like, I think this is just my opinion on the whole regular season, right? And that's so, like, after playoffs, my opinion on top lane is for sure changing. Like, initially going into the playoffs, I would have Alphari, Impact, Huni, Fudge, Someday. Like, I think that would be how I would frame it. Okay. But then off of Someday's performance, he was falling off. I actually had, like, that was like during the playoffs, I would go Someday after Fudge. And then now I'm looking at Huni, and of course, I like, just based off of the performance of Fudge, he's definitely rising based off player performance alone. Like, series after series, he's just having insane games. So, after a point, Huni is falling. But, like, I think the drafts are making it harder. I also just think that the way TSM thinks about the game and how they think about Rift Herald, watching their games, what is it called again? They send, like, every member to objectives.
Over prioritize.
So, like, for instance, their Rift Herald plays, they'll just sack bot lane. Like, they'll lose 2 waves bot lane by sending AD carry, and I'm like, okay, well, is AD carry losing farm? No, he's picking up mid wave. Well, who's fuck? Oh, it's Power of Evil losing farm. Or, oh, it's Renekton losing waves. Like, they can do these things without having to send 4 people. Like, there was one comical part in the series, I think, when they had 4 people looking for a dive on top lane on Gnar, on Alfari, and he was just getting Mega Gnar. So we're like, okay, well, this is not going to work. So we just sent
who called that? Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. They just sent an insane amount of resources for nothing. So this is the people who are just calling this in game, and these are the issues that I have with TSM a lot of the times.
But my counterpoint to that is that weirdly, I think it works in terms of NA mind games, because I think they're a part of the reason why TSM was getting these like 20-minute barons in a lot of their games, or other teams were throwing into them, is probably because they don't expect 4 or 5 people to be at that objective. And so then they start a fight down a player, right? And then they lose, and then TSM gets a free Baron at like 22 minutes into the game.
And that's the thing, like, because that is a concept. Like, that's a concept of just sending members, because like, if you think this is going to be a game-ending fight, like for instance, if it's 3rd dragon, 4th dragon, yeah, well, who the hell cares about top lane wave when you can just send multiple members there? But if it's not a game-ending play, and if it's something that you can still fight for while still prioritizing wave on an AD carry or something like that, then why are you doing it? And they do this a lot. So like, that was my issue with it, is that it wasn't as if they were like, oh, we're just going to go top lane, take top lane turret, while, you know, Tactical is literally just for taking full wave spot, turret on his own, and really TSM's not getting a gold lead at all for it. They're just like losing experience. Like, it's just an issue with how they think about the game that works against a lot of teams. Like 70% of the teams like are getting wasted by this. But if they want to be a championship team, and if they want to still be ahead of 100 Thieves, who the hell knows what's going to happen next split with the team, right? They could very well easily improve, because all of this thing happened last minute. And I think they need to get better at this.
I don't know if they're going to learn their lesson, because I feel like these things have led them to wins, because the enemy team is making a mistake of fighting instead of just punishing the move. And so in their mind, this is probably how they're actually coming out ahead. Right?
Dude,
it's weird.
I
it's
agree
weird.
because of this. Think of this, right? What is the one game that TSM won in this series? The game where Team Liquid was like, well, it wouldn't be really sportsmanlike to just win 3-0 with a sub, so let's just randomly do a 5-man wipe int in the mid lane and you can just have a game. Like, what? Like, dude, that was a game where, no joke, you know, people make that exaggeration, like, oh, you blink and you miss it. Dude, in this game, literally, it's like a totally even state game, and if you dared to go in the fucking kitchen for a cup of coffee, the game would have been over when you came back. Like I have never seen a more ridiculous like team just decide like, I think I'm just done with this. It was almost like StarCraft. Team Liquid may as well just typed like GG and just left the server. Like when you know the other guy's got like a bigger army, you're like, yeah, fuck this, I'm not going to win. Like, what was that? What was game 3? What was the end of that game? Could someone explain this to me? Because by the way, Fion, I hope you're listening, mate. When I watch games like that, I don't go, how is this different from elite level LPL? Man, shut up, Fion. Like, that was one of the worst endings to a game I've ever seen, mate. You know the one where they just ARAM in the mid, Raz, and for some reason, TSM ahead in the game, just all focus Spicker, who's running away from them. Like, why is this as well? Why are there champions still in LCS, in NA, that have movement, that people chase like fucking cats with a laser pen pointer? Why are you doing that still? Have you ever, listen, this is one of those moments where I've always wondered, because this is the thing, right? The real problem with games is the second you play a game, it's like the iceberg principle. It's like you lock off a lot of your subconscious, and you can only access like sort of like a live stream data feed, like your REM, as it were. So the problem is you can't really like pause and then think like laterally around what you're going to do. But even so, surely one of the most fundamental concepts in League is like target selection in a 5v5 team fight. And surely you didn't think the jungler was the target. Surely it would be, I don't know, the AD carry, the fucking mid laner who's caught out, who hasn't you, or maybe the guy who's just bursting all. Like, come on, man, this is ABC stuff. That's my point for Yon. These are the ABCs of the league, mate. This isn't high level concepts.
So like, I do not remember this fight. The only thing I remember about this game was the fact that Team Liquid literally 2v2 kills them bot lane, while Alfari is like hard stomping solo like top lane in a Sign versus Renekton matchup. Like, Team Liquid just won based off lanes alone. I think the only thing was like there was a 2v2 mid that Armeo and Jensen ended up losing. So our Power of Evil had a huge lead. But like, outside of that, and picks
the free Baron, dude.
That too as well. Yeah.
No, I mean, so I really have it up right now.
They had a Baron steal this one, right? Am I thinking of the right game?
No, it's not a steal. They literally just gave up the Baron for free, and like it was 5-5 in terms of kills. Gold lead was dead even at 28 minutes. And Tactical and Armeo and Core JJ are standing around their red buff on red side. And meanwhile, just over the wall, the Baron is going down, and they just don't do anything. They just don't do anything. It's so crazy to watch this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, that's the other bad thing about in general in NA. There's another thing I can't believe. Like Raz said, the real problem is right. TSM, you would hope, would be with Team Liquid and C9 as like they're elite teams in the region. At least you've got like a few teams that are up there. Whenever I've watched these games between TL and Team Liquid, whether it was with Grig or whether it was when they had Santorin, the amount of games where TSM is just watching people take objectives or people are just like letting TSM take Barons, like this isn't even like, again, you're not even reaching the fundamental level of the game. Like the basic concept of objective control is you contest for it or you don't. There's no like, I was contested but not contested and I'll let them take it. Well, you just did nothing then. You traded for, you did like that fucking trade meme everyone's doing. I give you a Baron, I receive nothing and lost waves. Like, great deal, yeah, awesome, sick deal, yeah. Bring up the Trump meme. This is the worst deal in the history of whatever. Like, you know that one.
Raz, I sent you the time mod.
Yeah, I saw it. This is pretty absurd.
You can click on it. The one where they get wiped. It's so nuts, isn't it?
It's the free Baron.
Oh, the free Baron
in this game where they're just standing there and they know what's going on because Armeo just ults over on over the Baron wall at Hecarim on the last possible second. So they apparently know it's happening, but they just don't do anything.
By the way, obviously, there's another angle I think we have to discuss here, right? Which goes like this. It's basically the jungle angle with Grig. I'm going to call him Grig because that's Speed's fucking name forever, mate. Armeo in that case, right? So here's the problem I have, right? Even though, as you say, I agree. Like, put it this way, Grig used to be terrible at the playoffs, in my opinion, in the past. He certainly looked decent. And in the context of the fact he had to play last minute, he's not even supposed to be here. He did a fairly admirable job. Like, put it this way, he didn't lose them the game, which, by the way, is literally, I'm not joking. The main thing I would tell a player in that situation is, look, don't expect to think you're going to be like the best player. Just do the basic things that you can, communicate with people, just don't lose the game. Just don't make a big blunder and trust that, you know what, you've got Jensen and fucking Alfari, mate. They could probably win this game if we just don't make mistakes. So in that sense, I think he did a good job. But my problem is this. The first thing I think of if someone tells me that TL wins the series is I have to start looking at TSM, Spicker and their players and go, how are you not exploiting this? Like, as I joked about before, Greg effectively could only play fucking Uday and questionably Hecarim. Those are like the two champions he could play. So already you should have a draft pinch if you're a competent team and you have good coaching. If you don't have a draft pinch, you should be drafting things which punish him. They weren't doing that. They were just doing meta junglers. Thirdly, why in this series was it not like the final where you're giving fucking Alfari the direst treatment? He doesn't have a jungler. If he doesn't have a jungler, and I have, by the way, Spicker's been one of the better junglers in the league. If I have, in theory, one of the best top laners, like we were talking about, and one of the better junglers, I'm going to make Alfari the game a nightmare because think about it, right? If I can get him behind, not only is he behind, but it's going to be really fucking tense between him and his jungler. I can ruin the whole dynamic of their team. This game, aside from like one game, basically, they look like they just gave him a free pass.
I think that's why I think it's why it's clutch the way that Cloud9 played, because Jensen actually performed on an individual level kind of poorly in the TSM series. And so C9 came in with a game plan to punish Alfari and to win the 2v2 because they knew Armeo didn't have the synergy. And then not only that, we'll get to this, but that game 5 strat, if you are a sub jungler and trying to deal with a lane swap scenario, is a nightmare. That is a nightmare scenario. And they created that, I think, specifically to punish the lack of synergy that the team would have in that instance. So, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Raz, go.
Yeah, with TSM, the specifically like trying to pinch jungle and make it a little bit more uncomfortable for Armeo. I even said it coming into the series that for Team Liquid, just give yourself like really easy, straightforward comps around like Hecarim and Udy are priority. Problem with TSM is that it's not even that Spica can't play those champions. It's just that the team looks really bad when they have like Lilia jungle and like AP junglers with AD mids. Like it's just something that they're not good at playing. They don't exploit mid lane advantages well at all. And then when they did show it, they had like a Rumble top lane, last I remembered, that just did not work with their comp. So I just think overall it's just not in their style. And so that part sucks. Like that part sucks if you're not flexible enough as a team to then like choke the jungle matchup. So that's one thing. Like absolutely. And yeah, and I think they just need to address how they want to play the game through draft and how they want to play the game on the map. Because I think teams will just get better. Summer split is always the same case. Like teams will either get better by making acquisitions to just like on whatever they've seen on spring split, or will just like be scrimming. Like there are a few teams that I know that are just scrimming in downtime. And so while you're either taking a break or going through these finals, like they're just already getting prepared for the next regular season. So like I'm a little worried because TSM did get better throughout the regular season, but this type of stuff just literally caps you. If you're having like very obvious things that you either agree on or disagree on internally, but like you just can't get past that barrier. So I don't know what their solution is.
So here's a question. Before we move on, because I don't want to spend all the time talking about TSM, but how do you improve this team? Like, does Reggie go back and beg Double Lift to rejoin the roster with Sword Art?
I think that would be a good move if he comes and plays properly.
Yeah.
I think my issues are more so like topside. So they have great players in their academy roster, though their academy roster is not doing so hot. But they still have like people like Hanser and Cody-san.
It's all right. Some of them will probably be beating TSM in best of fives in like 2 years. So keep your eye on.
There we go.
If history tells us anything.
And I would say just like make it so when you're going into the summer split that you guys see the game the same way. That like if you think that this is not a good first pick, then you're challenging that and you're challenging it with roster moves. Like that's how I would see it. If that's not like if they just want to continue with the same roster and they have faith with it, then they can make worlds like top 3. They did that, but I don't think that's what their goal is.
I mean, they did do it, but a lot of it was by the grace of 100 Thieves that could have 3-0'd that series if they had competent mid or late game macro, right? Yeah. So
they also better hope EG don't somehow get a good AD carry. It's game over, mate. Like,
yeah, they're hoping that 100 Thieves and EG don't upgrade mid and AD carry respectively if they're running it back, but I just don't think they have the player for player talent ceiling in order to remotely compete with Cloud9 or Team Liquid right now.
Well, one thing I have a problem with in general is like, even though they had all those games in the regular split where they certainly won, like obviously they beat Team Liquid twice. One of the problems I do have with TSM is like in isolation, I don't hate almost any of the players on the team to be on TSM. Like, even Sword Art, by the way, my problem with the Sword Art one was that you paid way too much and you sort of bought at the high and he's only going to go low versus what his career was. Like he's not going to be like 2015 Sword Art, is he? It's just not going to happen at this point in time. The game's different.
I just love the fact that they made, the memes write themselves. The $6 million man, right? They rebuilt him, except worse than he was before. How do you do that?
They don't have the technology, it turns out, Monte. They
don't have the technology.
No, they don't have the technology. Exactly, yeah. So, no, because here's the problem, right? So in isolation, like, for example, I mean, I know a lot of people would have thought this logic, right? If I was doing a team like Dig had, maybe Sword Art's the best possible signing. Shot caller, veteran voice, worked with young players. All of his strengths work out there. The problem I had was this. Players like Huni, Spicker, Power of Evil, Sword Art. I won't comment on Lost because I think he's just okay, but whatever. It's by the by. Right? Those 4 players, the problem is together, I don't think that's a good team. I don't think there's very much synergy there at all. I don't think they even have very complementary styles, quite frankly. Like, I don't think those are the 2 solo laners I want, for example. Like, just not the style I want. Like, that's the problem I have is, like, I don't see how they win in the league in that regard. Like, meanwhile, you go look at Cloud9, it's like, mate, their fucking balance is incredible. They've got all the players you want in all the positions. So that's what, if I'm TSM, I'd look at. It's not like you did all the wrong signings. It's like what Raz is talking about. Like, they have to be on the same page. Like, you have to understand what are we attempting to do in this game and how are we going to be able to do it, etc. Like, this looked we've said it all playoffs long. Even when TSM was winning games and series, it was like other teams just bizarrely just decided to give them a bunch of free kills.
I think, like, in terms of team building, Evil Geniuses like had the right idea with how they wanted to build their team. Like their pieces you can debate on, right? But the idea of having like solid top laner, support that roams, a mid laner that's like that is quote unquote like flexible and best in a on red side, like is a playmaker, like something like that, where it's like this is how we want to draft and this is how we view the game. Where with TSM, I think it changes a lot, and it's I can see how they want to play the game. Like I think the one trick warhorses is something I mentioned that was like pulled from literally Monte from like the Azubu Blaze days. Like that's how I would see them if they have the Power of Evil and like this roster. But then their top, I think they just needs to change things. I don't know what the meta will look like on Spring Split. I'm okay if they have like one style, but they just have to be really fucking good at that style. That's the only way that would challenge C9 is this just if they can't be as flexible as like being just really good at being a team fighting team.
It's also not that EG didn't try and make certain player upgrades on their roster. It's that they were unsuccessful in
Yes.
acquiring the players. So it wasn't an issue of money. It wasn't an issue of intent. Like, I agree with you that I think their roster building strategy is very interesting, but frankly, like, they just couldn't get the mid or AD carry that they wanted, which I think was their biggest issue.